one question.
Yeah.
As somebody, I didn't get that name. So he said that mentioning a gap of between the education and the career starting, mentioning a gap with something else, would that work every time uh, with every person who is interviewing us, or we should just check the kind of the kind of role we are getting into or the kind of company we are getting into. We should check with that on our perspective, with our perspective, and then mention that uh, gap. Like I have just tried a public sector job, it didn't work out, and then I'm here. So would that give a negative picture of, oh, so something didn't work, he has to try with this again, and if this didn't work, he would go to something else. He just came here by an option, not by choice.
Suresh, trying, I would say, like if I want to add, if I want to start, trying is never looked as a negative thing. If you have explored different things in your life and you are not like you're not sticking to one and you just explode, you find out in early stage of time within 1 or 2 years that you are not meant to follow this thing for entire lifetime, right? So career is not something like you can just take it and you will go with like end your career or retire using the same with the same career, right? So it's your time. You just explored for 1 or 2 years. You didn't like a public sector, so you switched to IT or some private job. So I never feel like it can never be it will look as a negative thing. So it is always showing your struggle and your passion towards learning something new.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and adding to what Divij said, yeah, uh, I don't know why there is a taboo around switching or having a career break on your resume. It doesn't matter if you put in your time into something and it didn't quite work. It's fine. You learned a lot on the way, and being honest could really help in these cases. Yeah,
Like,
Divij, go on.
okay.
Hello, hello.
Yes, Pratik. Yeah, Pratik.
Uh, Just a quick question, last question. I was just
Yeah.
confused between different types of roles. Like, for example, some kind of companies they expected like data scientist related expert skills or something like that for just for a data analyst role. Some kind of companies like mix business analyst with data analyst roles, right? There are also opportunities like data analyst internships, apprenticeships, and data analyst full-time roles as a fresher, right? So means just means how can we determine just by learning SQL and Python and all? Like some companies expect data science skills also, right? So it's like we are learning, going to a learning loop which is never ending. So how can we just
Yeah,
stop and just yeah?
you can never do that. Even I am learning. If I have to switch and later move into a finance company, I have to work on a project. So I gave this example in my previous session as well. So I was applying for Mastercard, and they were looking for someone with financial background. So within a weekend, I created a project around risk analytics. So it's very much important. It's a never-ending curve, whether it's for a fresher or a professional. It depends on company. Definitely, you have to tweak your project around that so that they see that you have done something similar in the past and you would be good fit for the role. So yeah, I mean, you have a weekend, you can just create any project. If for that particular company you really want to apply for, it's a good company and you want to get into, create a small project within a weekend and just add it in your resume. Your resume should never be static, it should be dynamic. Dynamic to company, dynamic to roles and responsibilities, dynamic to the background of the company, dynamic to the team you're applying for. So just make sure that never stick to just one sheet of paper of resume and be like, I'll apply to all 100 companies using this. Always, make changes. Yeah. Divij, you are ready?
That will cover. Yeah. Yes, Janvi.
Okay, you can go to presentation mode and then let's quickly get started. Everyone just be on mute. We'll definitely take all the questions towards the end. Okay.
You can see my screen. In,
Yeah. Divij, you can get started. All the best.
okay. Yeah. So good evening, everyone. Yeah, I guess you have survived 1 hour long hour. So first of all, kudos to everyone. and you are sparing your Saturday just to attend this and getting to learn something new. So that itself shows your dedication that you are here to learn and know something new. So first of all, kudos to all of you. I'll start with brief intro of mine, as Janvi already introduced. So yeah, my name is Divij and I'm currently working at Microsoft as data and applied scientist. And before joining Microsoft, I was working as a data scientist at VMware, and I've completed my master's in data sciences. And yeah, before that, I was working and like I'm a bachelor background from EC background, and like I also transitioned into a data science because I've never studied data science in my BTech. I was into embedded software engineer and I was working in a startup for a 1 year. And then I thought like it was related to some data, like sensors data I was manipulating and analyzing related to wastewater management. So from there I got interested towards this art of data sciences, how I can leverage the data and can bring something insightful out of that. So that made me pursue interest in this field, and then I went and Symbiosis, went spend my 2 years entirely dedicating towards his data science and starting my career as a data scientist at VMware and then switching to Microsoft. So it's been 1 year now for me at Microsoft. And total, I would say I have a 3.8 years of experience till date today. So yeah, I'm also very much keen to learn. And yeah, as Janvi agreed some time back, that learning can never stop. And I agree to that point. It will never stop beyond, like if you move 10 years ahead, then also it will never stop. Everything, new things will come on, new business area will come on, and you have to keep it. So yeah. Okay. So agenda for the second session that we are covering, that is the first ticket to the company that you send or that you apply, which is your resume, right? So it cannot be static, right? So that's what she also did. It should be dynamic. It should have some nuances that you need to cover, that you need to compliant with before applying to a job, right? So and to get this understanding how this whole recruiting system work and how you should make your resume compliant with that thing, it's what we will cover in today's session. So the broadly we will see the resume writing, then we will discuss about the ATS system, and then we will cover the fourth point, which is the case methodology and WIFM method of writing a crisp resume that will make sure that it should get into the hands of recruiter at the first place and you should get a call. Then we will see the ideal resume for a data scientist or analyst role. So I will be being practical here. So all the methods that we will list in the above slides, it doesn't like that I'll download any resume from the internet and show you that, okay, you have this. I'll show you my resume that I used and in my college, for which I got selected at VMware and got a PPO as well. And then the same resume with new additions, with new projects. So same structure is there, but yeah, projects and other things will keep on updating in your resume. So I'll share my resume, practical things, what all I'll cover in the case and WIFM method, and we'll see quickly, glance through it, uh, how it should look like, and it will be more perspective for a data scientist purpose, I would mention. And then we'll see some nuances towards the LinkedIn also, how you can make your profile better and how you can apply some hacks on the LinkedIn and some bit of personal branding, because that is LinkedIn is for, because you have to build your brand so that you can shine on the recruiters end. And then we'll take a Q&A at the last. Okay. And yeah, this picture, I also get frustrated sometimes. So once we apply for the resume and you have to fill the entire columns or entire process again. So that's a really frustrating for everyone. Okay, coming to the resume writing science. So I would say resume writing is both art and science. So if we grill down to art, why it is an art? What do you mean by art? Art is something like, it should be neat, it should be clean, it should when someone is reading your resume, it should not look like tidy one, some spaces are there, some irrelevant commas, your punctuations are here lying here and there, some spelling mistakes. So that all comes under your art. So your resume should be perfect on art side, right? It should have neat bullet points. You should cover your like we will see the example in our further slides. So it should be neat and clean, so that the person who is reading your resume or referring, he should have a clear sense, and it should have a bit smiling and like things like that. So it should be neat and clean. And for the science part, you should be very much thorough in terms of what projects you need to add, what in that projects, how you will highlight that project. So that is the biggest thing. Like I have connected to so many people on topmate, and on my LinkedIn, the people send the queries, so they don't mention the objectives or outcome of that project. They just mention the long data science problem and what they have solved, how accuracy, how much recall, how much F1 score they have got in that project. But that is really don't matter in the resume. So we'll cover and we'll see that in detail. And sharing some facts here. So every resume has to pass the first step is your applicant tracking system, which we call as ATS. And that is the like first entry point. If your resume is compliant with ATS, then it will go to the hands of recruiter, else it will discard it at the very first place. Second, it has been estimated that a recruiter scan a resume for just 8 seconds and decides whether we want to proceed for an interview or not. So it just like you put long, I would say 5 hours or maybe a day or two to build your resume, and it just takes 8 seconds to review that resume and decide whether this person needs to be called for an interview or not. And these are all like Google Facts, you can refer it. And for every job, it has been estimated an average 950 applicants apply for one job opening, and that's inside by the Gartner. And that's why we will see how ATS system comes into the picture. Yeah. So as I don't I think like many of you have hearing this term maybe at for the first time, what is ATS? So applicant tracking system. But this is the truth. Like most of the Fortune 98 companies are using ATS tracking system. Why? Because there are so many applications for a one particular job, and it's all about demand and supply, right? So if we have a lot of people available for that particular role, so it is not viable for a recruiter or the manager to review all thousands of resumes and schedule or review it at the first glance and then decide top 50 or top 100, right? So ATS is a software which does this for them, and it filter out some good applications, good resumes out of the bunch, and provide the final results to the HR and recruiter, and which get manually like for other purposes, which are forwarded to your hiring managers for the technical interviews and for other stuff. So you have to understand how you can make your resume ATS compliant. So like this is a small write-up that I have put in for the working of ATS. So as I said, some recruiters can still look at your resume for just to for matching your profile to some other roles as well. Let's say you applied for business analyst, but there is opening for financial analyst, and you have done your undergraduate in finance, so they can review it and match to the relevant roles also. Somewhere it is completely automatic that they will search, and they will search for some specific keywords, whether your resume has those keywords or not. And if it matches to a certain threshold, let's say 60% or 70%, then only it will pass to the recruiter side, else it will get rejected at the very first place. So you have to make sure that the job description or the JD for which you are applying, your resume should have the relevant keywords related to that thing, whether it is in your projects, whether it is in your like certificates or whatever you are inputting. Make sure that those keywords and the titles, those projects should have those things, so that it could score and get cross that threshold. So coming to how now the question comes, okay, I understand this ATS system. How can I check my resume before applying to companies whether it is ATS compliant or not? That's a very legitimate question at this point of time. So I would suggest, and I've mentioned here in the deck as well, you have various free sites available on the Google as of now, where you can upload your resume, and you can upload the JD. You can just copy the JD from LinkedIn, right? Or any other site which is offering that job. You can just copy it and make upload your resume, and find out which keywords are matching or which keywords are highlighted most of the time in the JD and which are missing in my resume, and it will give you a detailed report and screenshot you can see on the deck. So there is a site called jobscan.com where you can find that. Other second hack, this is like personal hack which I have used. So this is mentioned nowhere. So in the data science terms, if person know about the word cloud, so word cloud is nothing but it take the corpus of text and it will highlight some key important frequencies of words which are mentioned in that resume several times. So it will highlight those frequency of each word. So there are sites where you can just upload or just write the JD and it will form a word cloud in which you can pictorial in the picture way, you can see which key terms are highlighted most of the times, and you can use those key terms in your resume. So this is a very good hack you can use while building your resume and matching the JDs. So as we have in the starting we said, your resume can never be a static, right? If you are applying to, let's say, 10 jobs, 15 jobs, you have to manipulate your resume as per those requirements. You have to manipulate your projects. For the freshers I'm talking, if you are fresher, you are applying, you have to manipulate your projects according to the needs of the company. If they are hiring for finance domain, if they are hiring for HR domain, if they are hiring for supply chain domain, BFSI domain, banking finance, if it is related to, you can pick any project related to that field and mention in your resume. Because you don't have any work ex, you have to do it. As Rohit also mentioned, you have to be sometime mentioned from taking from a GitHub. Just mention that project, and once you get the call, get thorough understanding of that project end to end. How that particular finance or supply chain thing is working, how that loan prediction, let's say you picked up any financial loan prediction data set where you have to classify whether this person will default or not. Just pick those data sets, apply your Python skills, your machine learning model, and learn end to end, that as if you have done that project end to end, and solve it. If you have that gap, solve it end to end. Write your, like, make your whole understanding of that project. So that's how one can leverage these tools and can make their resume compliant with the ATS system. And be sure that it is like, I have read few points, and I have myself have at that point in my college, I have attended some resume building sessions from the experts, and he's from like Canada, not from India, and he's an expert in resume building. So he told us that you cannot have a two column format page system in your resume. So be sure, make sure you have the single line and the paragraph kind of a thing, not a divided one at the page, because it is not compliant with the ATS and it is not able to read what you have mentioned. So ATS system, if you also want to try, I have myself have tried, like if you apply to any product based company, whether it is Microsoft, whether it is Google, once you upload your resume, it will capture all your college details, it will capture your experiences, it will capture what time frame you have mentioned you have worked for this company. Let's say for a 2 years, it will capture automatically your personal details, your email, your phone number. So that means your that particular software was able to read and scan through your resume. So that's a good sign. So you can also test that. If before pressing the applying button, you just upload your resume and see, okay, my details are getting fetched. These columns are getting fetched with my experiences, with my projects. So that's a win situation for you, that yeah, my resume is ATS compliant, and that you can sure shot. So there are several ways now you have understood how you can leverage this thing. And yeah, make sure that you are applying to the right format, in the right format at the first place. So make sure you don't have the image based resume, and your recruiter should not do like this Mr. Bean is doing. So no doubt this resume stand out and looking perfectly fine if someone is applying at the Netflix. But the only problem with these kind of resumes, if it is an image based, a one person cannot like, it cannot be passed through the ATS system. It will never gonna pass the ATS system, as it is uh, full image based and not able to extract any information out of that resume. And specifically, I believe that we are not a graphic designer, or we are not applying for a creative role that requires our creative skills in that resume. So that's my personal take. I will never apply this kind of format in the companies, whether it's Microsoft or Google. I'll never apply this kind of a format, in at least for my experience. But yeah, make sure if you are doing some creativity, if you want to stand out amongst the rest, make sure it is text based format, or the PDF one should easily able to scan through it, not a image based resume. Okay, so now coming to the strategies that one can follow for resume building. Okay, you have got that. Okay, my resume should be ATS compliant. Now, what things I need to include in my resume? How can I start it? What things I need to cover in my resume? And we will see the practical also. We'll see practical exposure to my resume as well. So first is the case method and the WIFM strategy. What's in it for me? So C in the case stands for your customize. So you need to customize, as we said, every different role you are applying for, right? You cannot you cannot have a one resume for all the job openings you are applying to. You have to customize it according to the needs, you have to manipulate the projects. So I'll take my example. At VMware, I was involved around in three projects I have done in my total tenure at VMware. So now I wanted to have that, like while applying for Microsoft, I needed to have only those projects, top two projects in my resume, so that it could match somewhat to the JD for which I'm applying for. So you have to be very choosy, you have to customize it according to the needs of the JD which you are applying to. And like I'll cover that in our next slide also. Make sure your resume never crosses 2 pages. It is very much advisable that 1 page or max 2 page resumes are very best at getting shortlisted. If your resume, like there is no hard and fast rule, like it's not a, you can say a hard coded rule mentioned somewhere that if your resume is 3 pages we will reject it. But most of the time people have observed that a resume, if it is crossing 2 pages, that looks a bit negative. So you have a lot of work, but you have to customize it, you have to be choosy to make it 2 pages for getting selected and having further rounds for your interviews. The second I would talk about in the case is your achievements. Your resume should talk about and have the approach of your achievements oriented, not just the responsibilities or inputs oriented. Like it was like, let's say some example, I was given a task to do this analysis. I was responsible for doing the market basket analysis. So I was not responsible. So it doesn't giving any impact what you have created on that company, right? So company is paying you, right? So company is paying you to generate some value out of your resume, or value out of your compensation, right? They are paying you just to earn more than or maybe double than your salary. So you have to be the result oriented. I have done this. What was the impact on the companies? It should have your numbers, it should have the impacts, it should have the values. So if I talk about specifically in data sciences roles, most of the projects you will ever encounter in your work life, and this is per my experience, with my industry experience, you will have just two scenarios. Either you will generate dollar for the company or revenue for the company, either you will save existing, you will save money for the company with the data science solution. You will effectively manage the campaigns, you will increase the ROI, you will increase the number of CTR, click through rates. So you will save the dollars or create an impact. Either you will generate the dollars. Third is either you will save the time. Time means time for the other stakeholders. So you did some analysis which manually takes 10 days, but your model, your process, your automation thing have reduced to just 1 day. If from a week, just a 1 hour or 2 hour job, your model can predict which a person can do manually in a week. So these are the three only major things where you can do your data science, apply your data science skills, generate revenue, reduce the cost for the company, or save the time for another stakeholders. So try to mention all these points, and I'll show you how I mentioned practically in my resume, so that it could create an impact in the terms of the reader whosoever is reading your resume. Then third point, very simple, it should have your as simple as possible. You don't have to be very much graphic oriented. So if you see my resume, it's very plain. And I have seen most of the tech resumes. I have interacted, like I have my friends in Google, I have friend in my Facebook, Meta, and every other top product based companies. I have never seen anyone applying with the graphics resume. So that is one thing as per my observation. So you should have a simple and appealing resume, and yeah, it should create an exciting in terms of once if anyone is reading your resume. So it should excite that person. And what's in it for me strategy covers all these points. So think in terms of a perspective. If I am reading your resume, I should able to get whether it is matching my job requirements or not, right? So it is like a marketing brochure for me. So let's say I'm hiring a person who is into marketing analyst, right? So I want a person who knows some marketing attribution, who has worked for these kind of a domain. So once I read your resume and I know that you have mentioned in your project that you have done some market basket analysis, or you have done some market attribution project related something, so I can easily connect with your resume. Okay, that okay, this person knows, this person has done in his previous work. So let's ask these questions in our interview and let's take this forward. So try to map everything to the JD and what's in it for me. Think for the perspective of the second person who will be reading your resume, just as you are selling yourself. So resume is nothing but you are selling yourself that I am the potential candidate for you, hire me. So make sure your resume standouts like that. And yeah, so these are the points. If you wanted complete, you can say like, okay, I've understood how to make it, what should I include in my resume? Can you give some pointers? Can you highlight some pointers? What should I have? So these are the major pointers which you should have in your resume, and it should be, you make sure that it covers in your 2 pages, maximum 2 pages. So your contact information, which is very basic, just your name and your number and your email ID. That's it. You don't have to put in your complete address, like full home address where you are right now and all. Just city would work. Then your summary, a brief summary about you, what skills, what kind of a in which domain you are working. So what summary kind of you have for your projects, or what mindset you have as a person, right? So as a person, what are your skill sets, as a mindset you have? So you can just have 1 or 2 lines in your summary. Then the skills for which you are applying, maybe data analyst or data scientist roles, what all languages you need, what all tools you have in hands on. Then obviously for your employment history, if you are a working professional. And for the freshers, you can make this as your like projects and everything other thing you can highlight. And then education qualification, this is for everyone. And some additional information like relevant certificates and relevant you can say achievements that you have. Not mention any irrelevant achievements, that I was a school captain, I was this, I was managing my college fest. So this doesn't create an impact on that recruiter, because you are applying for a data science or tech job, not a, you can say, any marketing kind of a job, right? So be sure that whether that achievement is matching or not. Let's say you won some hackathon which was related to data science, you won some Kaggle competition, you worked on that, mention that things, mention those achievements, or workplace achievements if you have. That is very very impactful. If you, along with your work, you have created some impact on other things as well. So we'll see how we can mention all these things. And the last point, some professional references. So people right now, this what happening, and I've seen many resumes, because people keep on forwarding to apply, like once they see the opening at Microsoft. So I've seen people mentioning the references at the top, mostly one or two, max two. So I have also mentioned my two references which I have got on my LinkedIn, which shows your credibility of the work. And that we will see in the LinkedIn also, in LinkedIn slides, how you can have the professional references, how can you ask from while you leaving your previous company. So we'll see that. And yeah, so LinkedIn I'll go maybe next. First we'll go through the resume, and if before that, if anyone has a question, you can just ask, or I can practically show you the resume as well.
Uh, yes, Divij,
Actually, could you
my
sample resume or your professional resume so that I would be able to get into the core body structure of the resume? So,
Yeah, I'll share Rishi after this only. Before taking question, I'll share my resume. Like in the session itself. I'll next thing I'll do that only.
yeah, sure.
um,
Thank you.
okay. So Divij, when the only problem I'm facing while uh, having the interview interaction is that I am unable to explain what kind of a project I have worked upon. Let's say I have worked on a retail project for it is mostly focused on a supply chain project.
Okay.
So can you give us, either for a fresher or a very less experienced person, can you give us a domain related keywords or a domain related uh, project targets? What is the project is targeting about? Can you give us a
Right.
few keywords so that we could include that in our resumes, in our interview calls as well, because that's where the interviewers are projecting, focusing more while putting on questions about.
Right, Suresh. So yeah, I'll show you my resume and you will get a better clarity, because I have also mentioned in that way that, see, what is interview? If I tell you about from my experience, you are the driver of your interview, not the interviewer, right? So what you have mentioned in your resume, he will ask you questions on that. So once you are mentioning anything, like let's say you said, okay, you have worked in the supply chain. So if I take supply chain, any example, if it is coming to my mind, let's say I'm taking some demand and supply. Okay, you are working at, let's say your previous company was some e-commerce website where you have some product X, and there is a demand and supply for that product, and you have to predict that. That was your project. You have to predict the demand for that product every month, and you have to come up with the, it's a regression problem, and you have to come with the, what will be my ideal demand for that product, seeing the seasonality also, and seeing my 12 months period a year. So let's say your product X, that was your project, and you build end to end. You fetch the data. You saw it's a time series kind of a problem. So you fetch all the past data. You saw that there is a higher demand in the festive season, let's say October and November. So you saw all trend in your data. You did your EDA, as someone also mentioned. You have to start with the data. You did all your EDA. You saw the patterns in the data. Then you come up with the features, and you did a model. You build a model, you deployed it, and now you are applying to some other company, and you have to explain this project to that person. So you will say, okay, and how you will write in your resume, that we will see right now. But how you will explain your project, that part I am covering, that you asked in the question. So you will, I cooked up this example like right now only. So you will, how you will say is, okay, this was my project. First of all, you will highlight what was the objective. So in 2 lines you will say to that person, okay, so the objective of my this project is to predict the demand for my X product for, let's say, next quarter, because you can predict for a 3 quarter. This will be a simple objective you can tell. Then you will come up what you did. So you will tell, okay, I did full feature engineering to find out what was the pattern inside the data, and I found out there is a seasonality picture coming in the this product sales. I always try to use we in these terms, not I, because it looks good when you say we, and because it gives the impact that you are working as a team with everyone. So tell that we applied the data science model. Let's say you applied XGBoost, a simple model, or maybe it's a regression model, so I will not go with XGBoost. So it's a simple regression model. I used my linear regression based solution, which simple, very simple linear regression, which is predicting the demand for that product. And we were able to match the result with the actual demand, let's say 90%, because that's why only you deploy. Like if you are not getting a results of your model at the first place, you will never, like your company will never deploy that model, right? So I'm assuming that you got a very good model, you have worked everything. So this will highlight, okay, I have built a model which is 95% accurate or 90% accurate with the actual demand of that product. Now coming to the third part, which is the, that I covered in my previous slide, what it is doing. Either it is generating revenue, either it is saving the cost, or either it is saving the time. So it is generating the revenue, right? And it is saving the time up, like in some concept you can say, but it is majorly generating the revenue. How? Because you are able to predict the demand so accurately that next quarter my product, like let's say I will have 1,000 units to be sold, and your model is 95% accurate. So you are saving the cost of the company and you are generating the revenue. You can target the manufacturing unit that I need 1,000 pieces by this day to sell to my next quarter. So you can easily highlight the impact. This is the impact of your model, and how much sales you have. Let's say the product cost 100 rupees, you said 1,000, you manufactured 1,000 the products. So you can easily do the calculation, and you, like your business ultimately will be tracking the numbers also. So you can say we generated the impact of, let's say, 1 lakh. or 2 lakh. I'm just cooking example. So this will show that you have actually worked on that project and what impact that has created. So these pointers you have to keep in mind while mentioning your projects. I hope that I answer, Suresh.
Divij, thanks. Thank you a lot.
Yeah, now I'll show you my I opened it, maybe just a second. Yeah, I'll open my practical resume, right? So that it could make a sense to you. I'll just glance through it very quickly to all the pointers that I mentioned in this slide. This contact information, summary, skills, history, education. You can see the same structure in my resume, and you can like connect through the points in a practical way, because I believe a theory or just saying a theory and not matching with the practical use case, it's doesn't make sense, right? So yeah, let's go through it, and I hope you can see my this resume, right? You can see my this resume screen.
Yes, yes, yes. I
Okay,
can see.
cool. So see, I'll quickly go through it because I don't want to spam my resume a lot with the all the details, right? So see, first of all, I'm starting with my just a simple title. What is my current role in the company, my phone number, and my email. So that's the three things that any recruiter is required to get you a call. He doesn't should like it doesn't matter if I'm telling my address or not. Okay, so he can contact me via email or a phone number. Then summary, a one liner, what purpose or what for what role I am or what my expertise are, what are my interests. I want to know the algorithm and all. So this one line you can add. And the references part that I talk about in the last point. So these days I'm seeing people are using this format, and this is really helping because that is showing your credibility. So this is the recommendation I have received on my LinkedIn from the senior manager of VMware, and from like she was earlier at VMware from the director level, and they have written this on my LinkedIn profile, so one can verify this, and these are the exact you can copy. So this is one of the reference you are starting, that you have that credibility and what you have worked. So you're not faking it. Everyone has mentioned that Divish was working as a data scientist, he was working as a data scientist, what project I was doing. So that shows the credibility, that what projects I have mentioned in the below section. Let's say the director person has mentioned that he was working as market attribution models to partner pipeline, and I have same project highlighted below. So that shows 100% credibility, and it makes my very good chance that I'll get a call, because that confirms from the higher authority, right? I, being a 2 years of experience or a fresher, this is very relevant for my profile to get all these to build my career. So try to highlight and get these recommendations. If you are a working professional, if you are leaving that current company, get from there in which company you are working, get from your peers. For a fresher, I would say take from your professors. So if you are in a college, take from your professors who are teaching you, take recommendations from them. Or if you are attending some mentoring or some kind of a session, like whosoever is teaching you any data science concepts, try to get the recommendations on your profile and highlight those, and max one or two. Then coming to your second section, as we talk education, just mention what all education you have. And sometimes I have seen people not mention schooling thing, but yeah, it depends on you whether you want to add. Like if you are getting short of space, you can completely remove the school stuff, like it is not much relevant for the person. But yeah, your recent education and what you have achieved, that you can mention. Then yeah, I've also mentioned some subject because I wanted to highlight that yeah, this was my major subjects which I studied for in my masters, so that's why I just highlighted this as well. Then your technical skills will cover what all tools, languages you know, right? So you will Python, your R, your SQL, all your machine learning frameworks, your TensorFlow, Keras. If you have that knowledge, don't fake it. If you really know, because question can come on any architecture. Once you have grasped the knowledge, then only mention your NLP task and things like that. So yeah, I'll not cover the Microsoft one because I'm currently working. Let's talk about my VMware projects. But one pattern you will notice is that I wanted to highlight, Suresh, once you asked, every project has a title, every project has an objective. What was the objective of doing this particular thing? What I have done, or what we built solution, what was the impact? So that you will find very common in my resume. So this is really important for the person who is hiring. So it has generated an OKR, which is nothing but you can consider it as revenue of $1.4 billion for entire FY22, like which is for an entire year. So this model, which I'm currently working on at Microsoft, so that was the impact that it has created. So I just mentioned it. Second, it's about saving the time. So this project was to classify support tickets. I'm not going into project details because that is not relevant for this session, but just read this. It helps stakeholder to save 150 man hours a week. So that is telling the impact of the model to the person that, okay, I built, if you built an Excel solution also, he will accept if your impact is great. It doesn't matter whether you use deep learning, machine learning, whether you just do a simple Excel thing or just you can say just a SQL analysis. If it is solving a business problem, that what's matter. So it is solving, it is saving the man hours, that is I'm good. And whatever you have done, you can write it. I've built NLP classifier, I've used keyword, transformer based architecture, which is the part of deep learning. So I'll quickly not go in that detail. Similarly, you can see here the marketing attribution project, which I have shown you in my recommendation as well. So same I have mentioned here, marketing influence attribution, which was my project. What was the impact? Okay, what was the dollar impact it created, how many opportunities increase it has seen, so 3x over the baseline. So all these parameters you can mention. 40 million pipeline has been attributed to marketing management. So they will ask you how you are measuring this. So all the questions that I'll tell you my experience at Microsoft. So my third round, like first was my coding round, second was my machine learning round, third round was my all on my projects. So third round was basically all what I mentioned here. I have to explain what I did in detail, what was the outcome, how I did, which model, what is XGBoost. So all these questions will come. So you should be prepared what you have done, right? And the last section you will see, I have my work achievements and my public certifications. So you can add your work achievements if you have any, if you have won a hackathon or something like that, or any certifications relevant that you want to highlight, any paper you have published or something like that. So I've published this paper, I mentioned it, but I have more achievements or more certifications, but I don't have a space. So I'll not add. I'll just have all these four. I can make my resume 3 pages long, but I cannot afford to have it. So that is a just glimpse of my practical resume that I used, and that's how you can make your resume as well.
Uh, one quick question, Divij. So, is this the real resume you use for the job applications, or
Yes.
just for a glance you
No, no,
showed us?
it's a real resume, man.
Okay. No, sorry to ask that question. Really sorry, but it seems too much of information clouded on 2 pages. So that's the only reason I asked
See,
that.
in terms of keywords, like as I told you, first is ATS. So my resume has everything related to data science, NLP, keyword. First of all, it will scan through ATS and get into the hands of recruiter. If I like, I've scored my resume and it has 78% match. I've done it myself very long back. So all the key terms I am highlighting, it's applicable in my resume. The second, once it comes into the hands of person, he will see the impact that I've created, not the space, because I don't have this much space. I have to cover it in my two. So I have just mentioned 2 projects, but I have done three or four projects maybe, but I cannot mention it all. So all the relevant topics or the pointers that I mentioned in my slide. So you have to cover it anyhow in the like in 2 slides, right? In the 2 slides, you have to cover it or in the 2 pages, else Janvi, I cannot able to share my screen.
Try now.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah,
And
Suresh, you have to cover these pointers and make sure that it is having 2 pages at max. But there is no hard and fast rule. If it is going 3 pages, you can try, you can apply. But that's what I have observed and heard from many of the people, that 2 pages are more than relevant.
Yeah, even ATS don't approve after 2 pages. One
Exactly.
page is like the best, one and a half good. Two, if you really have to, include a lot of stuff, and posts that just don't go for three. Like try
Exactly.
to, crisp your knowledge, everything in 1 page or 1.5 page. Because at the end of the day, they are hiring you for crunching numbers and crunching everything, right?
Exactly.
So if you can't crunch your own journey, it just doesn't reflect the work. So try to crunch everything within 1.5 page.
Divij,
Yeah.
yeah, Priyanka here. Like, I have one question regarding projects. Like, I'm a fresher to this field, to the data analytics. So what I will do, I will go to some Kaggle, or I will take some data sets from the Google. I will try that data set. I will make some visuals and all, and I will find some problems and all, and I will resolve it. But in real scenario, if someone has worked on some real projects, on some real data, they find the solution and they apply it, like in real job. But as a fresher who don't have any experience, they take data from the Google and they try to put on their projects in the resume. So how to put that projects nicely,
Right.
so that we get a call for interview? Because I can only write that I determine uh, how much profits did in this year, or kitna sales hua ya kitna profit hua. But I can't I can't write ke ye profit ke baad what we have applied, what we have maybe I can give recommendation, but it's never
Right.
applied to somewhere, no. So that's a big problem, because I saw so many resume who has that impact. Okay, we find the solution, we applied, and we gained the profit of this much in this year. So how to solve this problem?
Yeah. So very nice question, Priyanka, in terms of a fresher who is applying. So what I will suggest, as you correctly started, you will pick up some data set from Google, or you will pick up some from Kaggle. From Kaggle, you will pick up some data set. So I would suggest, and I have observed the people, like once I was in like I was also in that state when we were in college and all. So every one of us was in that area, or I would say that stage once in our life. So what you can do is you can start that project. You don't have any industry data set available, so you will solve that problem end to end. End to end by mean you will build a solution. You just said I'll do some EDA, build a model, and I'll publish it. So publishing means whether you can productionize or not. So I'll tell you one fact, like Priyanka, most of the data science people or data scientists don't have a knowledge how to productionize the model. So they build or solve the solution, and they just left the solution in the Jupyter notebook, and that's it. They get the results in the Jupyter notebook, they build the model, they predict it, and that's it. The job doesn't end here. Like that's the only one step you have solved it. The next whole thing is the deployment stuff. And you can easily deploy your model in various platforms like Heroku, like Streamlit. Streamlit is a very good platform. I myself have used in various projects when I was in my college. You can use Streamlit. You can take the code, Python code, and deploy it end to end, so that in the real world I can mention that link. That's like I prepared for this question. That's why I will quickly highlight. So one thing I can do when a person who is a fresher can do is solve it end to end, make a blog out of that. So how you can make a blog? You have Medium, you have, let's say you are not enrolled in any course, so you can make a PDF out of that, or you can make a video of the full demo, right? And once you deploy it using some web app, you can attach these links in your resume that this is my practical, and that shows, and you can even highlight on your LinkedIn. So this is the practical project that still I have deployed using my Envil app, which has nothing to do with my work or my work projects, right? So this is my career village dataset. You can right now search it on Kaggle. There is a career village dataset in which you have to question and answer, build a deep learning question and answer framework. So I did a complete report kind of a thing for this thing, right? Like I made a full report with the EDA, with my analysis, what end to end I have solved in this project, and made a PDF. I made a YouTube video explanation, and I built an app. So anyone can go to this app and can actually run it. I will share the link also, this career village. So this is a very plain vanilla app. Like I'm not a designer, I'm not a front end developer, right? So I don't have objective to make it beautified, but my objective is to explain what this project do. So this project takes the question from the input and answer related to career. So this way you can highlight your project in a video, and you can practical demonstrate, like anyone can do that, right? You have any question related to any career field, let's say data scientist, piloting, anything, you can just enter, and this app is deployed on the server, so it will just run the model and give you the answer. So this is the deep learning framework that I have used for this, and this is fetching the answer from the questions that it has, and it is giving you, so any project, any use case you are solving, you can highlight and you can sell yourself. It's just how that you can make a blog out of that, you can make a web app out of that. Don't just leave your solution in a Jupyter notebook, I would suggest. Stand out from the other crowd, learn how to deploy a model. That's a very, very good skill, because in industry, that is the most relevant skill. You build a model, how you will deploy that. So that you can like make a kind of a web app and make a small video out of that. I myself have recorded that video once I was back in college. So you can do, like, it depends on you, what ideas you can have, right? So I can search anything related to career related, or any questions to that, because this data set I have trained on this particular scene, so it can answer basically that. So this now if I change the data set to a Microsoft data set and Microsoft articles, the same architecture I can use here in the company. So the recruiter knows that, okay, if I change my data from career, let's say, to Microsoft related data, so I can use the same framework. Why not? So that's how it will make the person look, that yes, you have exactly done the project end to end.
Okay.
Got it. One question, Divij. So I'm asking, so do you also have the resume that you used to apply on for VMware that you used? And if you have, then if you could also show that resume. And the second question is that how much an MBA helped you in getting the data science opportunities? Do you also suggest people to go on to that path?
To answer your, like, first I'll answer your second question regarding an MBA. It's, I would say it's more a personal choice whether like I had a two choices at that point of time, whether I want to go with an MTech or an MBA. But I chose this specifically because I connected with few of the alumni of this course, like who has done this from Symbiosis, and I've inquired what is the outcome of this program, what you learn in these 2 years. So I inquired a lot and researched a lot, and then I made my mind, okay, I don't want to go in much practical way of into MTech, and I would rather go with this 2 years MBA program. And that's a personal, I would say, because I learned it's not a simple MBA that you saw in any other B school. It's a dedicated 1 year technical skills and 1 year your other managerial and domain knowledge skills. So that's why, to get those domain knowledge, I have knowledge of finance, I have a knowledge of BFSI domain, I have a knowledge of economics, I have studied. So that's my personal choice, because looking at the syllabus that I will be I'll get myself enrolled to, that's how I chose or made my decision to pursue that course. And same I'll suggest you, if that, like, if finance interests you, if BFSI or economics, I being from a bachelor's, like we all are like technical BTech, I've never encountered economics in my bachelor's or in my school, right? We are a science students. But once I encountered that in MBA, like I'm a big fan, and I can, like, I know each and every theory of economics, what is ceiling, what is price, floor price, anything you can ask me, I can tell you regarding economics, because that's what my interest was. So if that doesn't interest you, I would not suggest to do any MBA or any further studies, and just stick to your data science domain. But that was my choice. I had an interest and love for these subjects, so that's why I went into that. And second, you asked for the resume. So I would say, Aditya, I don't have that in handy, my previous resume, because that was more college based, because I applied at VMware from my college. Like, it is the company who visited my campus. So that was a more formatted college based resume, which has a college name also. So that I didn't have handy right now. But structure that like mentioned here, these will never change. These will always be a part of my resume, and beyond that I will not add anything. These are just sufficient things. I'll not add my hobbies in this. I'll not add what I do in my spare time, because that doesn't matter to a recruiter. What I am doing in my personal time, that is the all conversation once you are selected for an interview. They will ask you in the final round, okay, what are your other tasks? So that is not a part of your resume. Never mention your hobbies and all.
Hi, Divij. So I have two questions. The first one is, how can you reach to your former colleagues or current colleagues about the professional references that you have mentioned in your resume, and what is the formal way of asking it? And the second question is like, in the ATS system, will the certificates that the valid certificates from Microsoft or any other will be worth it to mention in the resume through the ATS system?
Yeah, you can mention the relevant certificates, Balaji, because that is like, if you say I have done Microsoft Azure Cloud certified, so that will extract the keyword your Azure, your cloud architect. So all these keywords, it will match to the relevant resume if the requirement is for cloud person who should have a cloud knowledge, right? So mentioning relevant certificates is always you can mention in your resume. And what was the first question you asked?
Regarding the professional references.
Yeah, regarding the professional references, you can, like, you are currently, if you are working in your organization, you have your peers who is working, like you, I don't think so you are working on all projects alone. You are working with some other person, you are working with your managers, right? Your manager know that you are doing this project, so you can ask him in a very polite way that I am willing to get an recommendation on my LinkedIn just to make my profile highlight. So can you recommend me, and send him the recommendation pointers as well, because don't send a blank recommendation that can you write this for me. So that's an art I'll cover in my next slide, Balaji. Just wait for a few more slides because time is very less.
Yeah,
So
sure.
I'll cover it, LinkedIn part, and yeah, you can take that question if you have that.
Yeah, let's try to cover within like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
It's already 7:10.
Yeah, sure, I'll quickly cover then.
No.
Yeah, I don't have like much to add in this, because these are the some very basic do's and don'ts one should adhere to. So yeah, I'll cover quickly. So guys, like, once you have your resume ready, right? So as you have to make your LinkedIn also shine, because they both things go hand in hand, but must first thing is your resume, then comes your LinkedIn. So you have to create your profile and make sure you don't have, these are some etiquettes. I would not say these are mandatory things. These are some basic etiquettes you can follow to make your profile stand out. So once you create your account, you will see some strings in your profile link. So once you mention in your resume, so it looks very big, or it's look some kind of a tedious, because you have some certain strings present in your LinkedIn URL. So you can change this, and you can have your profile picture and the background image. That is really necessary before like making your profile and highlighting it in your resume. So make sure you have these things corrected. So if you just see, I just put my screenshot. You can see I don't have any kind of a strings in my LinkedIn URL. You can just go to this section, edit public profile and URL, and can make that change right now. Because that example, I don't know whether this person is in webinar or not, Avinash, but I just took from my from my connection. So you can just go and check whether you have that string in your LinkedIn profile or not, and you can correct it. Second, just have an image also. Don't leave it blank, and have the cover page as well. And here you can highlight anything. If you are a fresher, just what skills you have. You can refer the Janvi's profile as well. She has mentioned data analyst and some skills and some very good background image. You can make it on your some tools, Canva, or whatever you want to highlight. Just make sure you have that. Second thing, it's yeah, once you have these two things in place, the next section comes is about me. So I have taken this about me from our only, like the people like Rohit. First one is the Rohit one, second is Janvi, third one is mine, and fourth one is the next session Siddharth is taking. So I just took an example. So people, I have seen, and it's a bit confusion for this area, that some people say that mention about me in the third sentence, like third person perspective. But some people says, I have read a lot of argument on going on this. Some people say it is about me, why I should write in a third person. It's my LinkedIn profile, it's about me, and I know myself better, so I will write in first perspective. And to my surprise, I took all these examples, like 4 examples, all are in first first you can say first person perspective. And I also think that it should be first person perspective because no one knows better than me. So third person, what I mean, if anyone is getting confused, so third person means I'll write that, let's say Rohit has an interest in data and analytics. He is currently working with Amazon as a business analyst. He was with Uber as a, so you will replace all your I with he, you with myself, like kind of a that, and you will do with a third person perspective. But I don't think so. It is required. You can just mention about yourself, what you are into, what your interests are. And I saw that Siddharth has mentioned his about his past experience. So you can mention anything which you like to mention, and it is no hard and fast rule or something do's and don'ts about it. I have mentioned in my about section regarding the beliefs that I have in my personal life or my overall life, right? I believe in law of attraction a lot, so that's why I made it a bit modified in such a way that I use those keywords: ask, believe, and receive, and mention my some of my achievements. So you can do it and just write. No, don't leave it blank. That's what my intention to highlight here. Don't leave it blank, and you can use your first person perspective here. Second is, I've seen people just add the experience and don't highlight what work they have done. So similarly, what you have mentioned in your resume, kind of a similar thing you can mention in your experience section as well. Just add what was your work there, so you can see. And same goes with your education as well. If you are just a fresher, so you have your education, you have done projects in your final years, you have done internships, mention what you have done. So first one is I've took my example from like VMware, what I was doing. I can mention my certificates which I have achieved in my professional life, and what projects I was doing, kind of a brief summary. Similar, you can see the second screenshot I took from Rohit's profile. He has mentioned what skills he has, what SQL and what projects he has done in his Uber. And the third one is I took education, one example from education side. So this is from Siddharth. He has mentioned what all certificates, what all grade he has achieved. So you can find all of us, like you refer to anyone's of our profile and you can find everything in common. I also have education mentioned, everything. I have scored gold medalist, what percentage I have scored. And the last one, you can see the Janvi's one. She had mentioned all the certificates she has achieved in her professional career. So that highlights that you are not just working on projects, you are doing something extra also. So that's a plus point for your profile, just to make highlighted. And yeah, coming to the recommendation, which is the last slide. As I said, take from the colleagues, take from the person you have interacted, and first of all, learn the art of interacting with everyone. So you should not be reserved while you are working in the company. So this is first I'll cover from in the perspective of the professional, whosoever is working. So try to get from the person who is already in your industry and who is working with you. Try to ask them politely and send your brief pointers, like what you have achieved. So let's say this first person, I'll take example, Rubina. She was a director at VMware. So she don't has a time to review my profile or what I have done. I send her 5 or 6 pointers. My task was at VMware was doing this. I was involved in some competitions. I have done this. So she has framed it and mentioned on my profile. And I have total of 14. You can see. So similarly, the second screenshot is from Janvi's profile. She had some 8 recommendations from her previous org people. So you can definitely reach out to them. And for the freshers, I would say reach out to your professors, to your teachers to recommend you and get 1 or 2 recommendations just to highlight what you have done in your curriculum. So that's all from my side. And yeah, we can maybe, I guess we are on time, so we don't have a time to take any questions, or maybe we can take 1 or 2.
Divij, I have one question. I'm Sri Harshini. So now that we have talked about our LinkedIn profiles as well as our resume, now I want to know something about the cover letters, because I have seen a lot of HR stressing a lot on submitting cover letters. And even if you talk about my HR at my company, he always says that whenever you refer an employee, please make sure that you mention that they submit a cover letter. But I've been applying to a few companies recently, and I've seen that mostly we do not get an option of uploading a cover letter, right? So I have three questions here. One is, how much difference does a cover letter make? Is it really that important when while applying to these companies, especially product-based companies? Number two, if we do not have an option to upload cover letters, how do I make sure that my cover letter reaches to the necessary person? And number three, like I just cannot dump my resume in my cover letter, right? So what are the key pointers that I should include in my cover letter?
Okay, so see, I have applied or I have seen many product-based companies. It is never a compulsory or a star, right? It's never a red star that you have to upload a cover letter or else we will not proceed with your application. So
Right.
that is self-understood that it is not a mandatory thing. But
Mm-hmm.
if they are giving you the option and you have that in place, and that is like what you will write in cover letter is you have got some recommendations from your colleague or from your maybe professors or something like that, so that shows the credibility what the LinkedIn recommendations are for. So that
Right.
is kind of a same analogy I would suggest. So you can either mention in your resume one or two recommendations, or you can attach a cover letter separately where some person or some professor have recommended you, and it's not always necessary. And if you want to send for your third question that you don't have a cover letter option but you want to highlight it in some way, so if you get to know the hiring person, or let's say as Rohit also told, you are applying for a Google, you will search recruiters from Google and you applied for that
Mm.
opportunity, directly send him. If you are sending him your resume, just send a cover letter to directly on his email or to his LinkedIn section. So that can be one good option you can highlight.
Okay.
Also, Shri Harshni, I have shared my cover letter draft as well. This was the cover letter draft I used to reach out to people when I was, trying to switch from service based to product based. So yeah, you can just copy paste and save it.
So
Right.
you used to just mail this, or you used to send it as a PDF?
For most of the companies, hiring manager name was not mentioned on LinkedIn. So what I used to do was reach out to people already working in that company, or if the hiring manager name is used to be mentioned, I used to send them this. Not
Okay.
particularly when I used to apply for companies. It used to be to reach out to them and just express that why you are capable for that job and why they should even refer you, or why they even should consider your profile if you're reaching out to hiring managers or people to refer you. So you can use for that use case as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh,
Yeah.
Okay,
what?
I just want to ask one quick question. I've been meaning to ask this since the last session, but I didn't, because of the time constraints, I didn't ask it. So, in my case, I've finished my internship in the last semester of my engineering. And after that, I've been offered the full-time PPO converter letter. But then I was not able to accept it because of COVID and family-related issues. I took a break for 1 year and rejoined the same company. So should I mention that break? And I'm still working in that company. So should I be mentioning that career gap in my resume, or should I just not, because I've rejoined the same company? So
If you would have to mention, they would ask you for the experience letter. They'll ask you for the pay slips, or they'll ask you for some proof. So if you do not have that, I don't think you should mention the experience, because if you go to any company, they'll do background verification, and all the big companies have probation period. So if something comes off where you have lied to them, they would definitely fire you. So make sure whatever you do is backed by some proof. So if in this company only, you can reach out to someone who can provide you with the internship letter, or something like that it was unpaid, then maybe you can mention it. Otherwise, don't take the risk. It's about your career, because I've seen people get fired because they lied on their resume. So that's why.
cool, cool.
One quick last question, if you don't mind, can we?
Yeah, let's quickly take it. Then next up is Siddharth. Yeah.
Sure. Any website you would recommend in order to build this domain knowledge, or a project specific knowledge? For example, supply chain project. I have worked on a supply chain project, but not very much, uh, knowledgeable about that. Marketing project. So, any specific website so that we could build this knowledge and showcase ourselves in the interviews?
See, you for one thing which you can do is just read about supply chain from a different perspective and then understand what are the pain points. Or you can reach out to people and try to understand what are the pain points in supply chain. You can just directly Google where exactly in the past companies have used supply chain analytics. So you will have a problem statement then and there. After that, you can see like how exactly your analytical knowledge can be applied in there. Then you can start looking for the data sets on Kaggle. So this is what I did for the Mastercard as well. I knew that I wanted to create a project around credit analytics. So I went to Google. I just researched about it, how exactly American Express implemented analytics in their company, how exactly that works, because the company was similar, both were credit card based. So that's how you can also do it. Take inspiration from previous companies who have already implemented this thing like years ago, and see what are the problem statements still existing in this this world, this age, and then just implement that. Like, just have the knowledge from Google, it's readily available. But yeah, don't look for just supply chain analytics, just search for supply chain and get an understanding how exactly supply chain business works. And then once you have the understanding of that, then you can get an understanding how exactly the analytics can be applied with this problem, right? And if you don't want to go on that route, just search for where exactly in the companies have used supply chain analytics and get a problem statement from there. If you already have the supply chain domain knowledge, then only go for that, the second route. Otherwise, don't go with the first route.
Okay, thank you.
If you do not have any other questions, Siddharth, are you ready for the third